Greetings to all. My name is Emil Meddy, and I work with the Java Secretariat and the co-chair of the Terrorism Financing Working Group within the Africa chapter of the GCFFC. I am pleased to share some insights on the topic key challenges regulators face in improving risk-based supervision and what to expect from the fifth round of mutual evaluations. On the key challenges regulators face in improving risk-based supervision, I outline my points into six thematic areas as follows. One, structural and institutional barriers. Some regulators, in their mind, are conducting risk-based supervision, yet in practice, they continue to apply periodic one-size-fits-all checks focused solely on rule compliance. This suggests a reluctance to embrace change or persistence in old ways of doing things. A genuine risk-based approach, however, requires a fundamental shift in mindset and culture away from rule-based supervision. Second is inadequate risk understanding. Sectoral risk understanding remains weak, with risk assessment often poor in quality and outdated. Supervisors then struggle to strike a balance between proactive and reactive supervision, given that market environments and risk profiles are constantly changing. Supervisory interventions are therefore not determined and influenced by adequate risk understanding. The third challenge has to do with immaturity of supervisory tools, or you may call it low deployment of regulatory and supervisory technology. Supervisors face an overwhelming volume of data but continue to rely on manual systems or low deployment of technology to enhance their regulatory and supervisory responsibilities. Risk assessment modules are not adequately automated, hence a major constraint to improving risk-based supervision. The fourth point has to do with capacity and skills gaps. Some regulators, particularly for the DNFBPs, often lack adequate human resources, capacity, and skill sets, making it difficult to oversee large and complex sectors. The weak analytical capabilities often result in the over-reliance on checklist-based compliance reviews, hindering effective risk profiling and therefore a challenge in enhancing risk-based supervision of these sectors. The fifth point, another challenge faced by regulators is insufficient engagement among regulators themselves and also with the private sector. We must appreciate and accept the fact that the entire system is connected one way or the other. This call for deeper collaboration, which among others has the potential of enhancing risk understanding among regulators and also avoiding regulatory arbitrage. Additionally, the use of public-private partnership remains low. The question is, what is better than having continuous engagements and partnerships with the private sector, which could significantly enhance one's regulatory function? I leave that question for us to digest. The sixth and last point is enforcement and sanctions gaps. The last thematic area, as I've indicated, has to do with the fact that sanctions regimes are not proportionate or dissuasive enough to drive compliance. In some jurisdictions, sanctions are limited to the entities and cannot be applied to natural persons. More critically, there is often limited institutional will to enforce sanctions consistently. Remember, sanctions remain an effective tool to drive compliance and strengthen risk-based supervision. Now I move to what we should expect from the fifth round of mutual evaluations. There have been changes to the FATF methodology and processes, which is more of an evolution that is responding to the changing dynamics rather than a revolution, as some of the existing measures still remains intact. Now, under the fifth round, there is greater emphasis placed on risk, context, and materiality. There is also a stronger focus on effectiveness and more weight to be placed on informal cooperation provided it is achieving desired results. Financial institutions and virtual asset survey providers will also be assessed separately from DNFBPs under immediate outcomes 3 and 4 respectively, while assessment teams are expected to engage even much better and more meaningfully with assessed countries. Additionally, The mutual evaluation cycle has been shortened from around 10 years to 6, ensuring more timely and responsive assessments. Another important thing to note is the concept of recommendations under review. Under this concept, recommendations that will be assessed under technical compliance criteria will be jointly agreed between the assessed country and the assessment team. Reassessment of technical compliance will not trigger unless standards have changed and yet to be examined. For example, we have recommendations 1, 2, 4, 8, 24, 25, 30, 31, 38, 40 that have changed over the period, or the country has amended its laws or regulations since its last mutual evaluation report or follow-up report was adopted. And lastly, where there are significant reputational issues identified in the last mutual evaluation report or follow-up report. This means not all the recommendations will be assessed or reassessed, as you may call it, under the fifth round unless it falls within the scope of recommendations under review. In this case, the existing rating secured under the last mutual evaluation or follow-up report remains unchanged. This approach allows for greater focus on effectiveness. In conclusion, effective risk-based supervision demands continuous monitoring of evolving risks, proactive identification of emerging threats, and preemptive, proportionate action to address them. With the fifth round of mutual evaluations heavy on effectiveness, the importance of robust and impactful risk-based supervision has never been greater. And last but not the least, remember, the ultimate goal still remains taking profits out of crime. I sincerely thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you productive and fruitful deliberations. Thank you all.